don't have the dog, but I've got Minnie David.
You blow your own whistle.
It's important to keep laughing, keep smiling. He's a whistle. Apparently it has some sort of dark origin of the South Americans using the skulls of their enemies. So get into musical instruments, and I kind of like that. And Mike Mazzullo, I'm going to turn his head into a trunket here, one there. Where's John? He's not even here.
John Shipton, come to the front of the stage. John Shipton, where are you? Keep chatting, I guess.
Minnie David can answer the door.
We thought we were in for a comedy show tonight.
Here he is, here he is.
You know what we're famous for here in Lismore? Love more, they call us, the heart. Let's give these guys a proper welcome. Let's give them a standing ovation.
Thank you.
We are so honoured here in Lismore to have you two with us again. John, you're no stranger to this town. We've had you many times here, and you've got a close connection to Lismore. And we know a little about Julian Assange, I think, here. So first, after just watching David's story, which was probably filmed last year, there's more that's happened since then. So do you want to give us a bit of an update of where you're at today and how you're feeling, how you're preparing for what's ahead, and what the kind of options are ahead for you?
Me? Well, I'm very grateful for everybody that's come here tonight. I want to say, it really lifts your spirits. A lot of people here probably know a lot about the case. I'm often get surprised by developments that my supporters know before I do. They say, oh, your judge has changed, or the date's changed in your case, and I'm like, really? I don't know. Thank you for telling me that. But it's 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks today, 13 November. So what they call the military ground rush, where the speed doesn't change, but suddenly everything, you're at the pointy end, you're about to get a pine tree going up your backside. And so it's, but it's good, it's time, and everything. It's hard not to believe there is some sort of divine spirit behind this, because we've had the Ben Robert Smith case, we've had the Brereton report, we've had Robo-Dead, we've had the Mike Mazzullo's fall from grace, and it's like any good Hollywood movie. It looks like it's all coming together in Act 3, which is good because I don't really have a plan. But I feel to really make it the best possible dramatic outcome, I will go to jail, and Fast Eddie will get me out. And will get me out in the name of the Father, some sort of fantastic high court speech that she makes. And she'll get me out of prison, and that will be the fantastic ending. Lismore will be the winner. Lismore will save me.
Now, tell us a little bit about, so you've got a couple of options. You've got, well, not many. You've got 50 years imprisonment, of course, but that could all be halted by one person in particular, named the Australian Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus. Now, what power has he got right now?
Yeah, well, he could stop it with a stroke of a pen, of course, and this is why my case is important, and it's no surprise to anybody in the room. And we saw that movie beforehand with Ethan McCord. I mean, the world is in a bad place, and we are run. Dreyfus doesn't even make the decision. He's called the Attorney General, but he pretty much gets told what to do by people like Mike Pizzula, who have, who think the Indian person in the service station is a terrorist and puts police on them. He's just paranoid, crazy person who thinks they know about how the world works, but really he's never been to a Lebanese restaurant. They just don't have any ideas about how things really work, and they are the ones pulling the strings, and no one knows that. So Dreyfus would probably, we've written him a long letter. We are using fire because to say this could be embarrassing for you, this could be embarrassing for Australia, around the world. That was always my lawyer's, Xenophon Davis's idea. I mean, they're not going to change what I did from the very beginning. I said I was proud of what I did. I said, yeah, I gave the documents, I was justified. But we are changing the perception of me being the bad guy into me being the good guy. And that is slowly, that seemed impossible 10 years ago, but that is slowly coming to fruition. I don't think Dreyfus will drop the case, but what will be great is that when it blows up in his face, it will look really bad for him, and because we do have a lot of public support, and people will say, really? You meet people, whether they're on the left or whether they're right, or rich or poor, everywhere they say, but all the things that went wrong with spiritually. In Afghanistan, and my grandfather used to say this, you're going to put one guy in jail, and it's this, Oxford Sanchez educated lawyer who said we did the wrong thing, and he's the guy you're going to put in jail. I mean, that says everything about how far wrong we've come as a country. No one in this room is going to be surprised, but until someone like me is jailed by people like Pizzula, we might begin to see, we need to take that message out there to the people who don't know it, because a lot of people don't know it, and that's why we keep laughing. That's why I never let them see me look down or have the weight of the world on my shoulders. It's important. This war will be won by people who smile, by people who laugh in the face of adversity, and so
before we move on to John, one last question for now. Just wanted you to, give some comment on, what I've learned about you and what I've learned about the armies. There's this very strong sense of loyalty. You have to be loyal, and that seems to trump honour and truth. Has that been the case for you, the honour versus loyalty issue there? And maybe tell us what your book covers in regards to that.
Yeah, it's good. Well, my book's coming out, and it's probably better than a documentary, because and go on to Penguin and pre-order a copy, because I imagine the government will be trying to stop it. The more pre-orders they have, it might give the publishers, Penguin, a bit more lead in their pencil to sort of fight it. But because it talks about, it's funny about my time in boarding school, and in fact I didn't always do the right thing, far from it, but and why I got pushed to where I got pushed. But and a little girl asked me when we were down in Melbourne, John Loder, and it was like someone had brought their 5-year-old, 7-year-old along to the film, and she had the microphone and she said, "And what was it like having to tell on your friends?" And I was like, I was like, yeah, the whole audience was waiting for me to answer. But I was thinking about an analogy. It's not really, it's a bit like you're playing a game of rugby and you're on a rugby team and someone in your team just kicks the ball into the stadium. You know, it's not, there's no loyalty to someone who's an idiot and fucks up the game. You know, we all have tell our friends off, and if they really fuck it up, you've got to tell them. And you still won't be your friend. You might go visit them in jail, but you know, there's a line, and we all have to, you know, do the right thing. And if people don't, and they really stuff up, you've got to call them out. And that's, I didn't swear a loyalty to Joe Blow. I swore a loyalty to Australia, to the rule of law, and all the things that people have died for the last 1,000 years. And I'm not going to throw it away because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And in particular, my enemies are not so much the corporals. My enemies are the generals, and my enemies are the politicians. I want to see them. And they're not my friends, and they would have thrown me to the wolves. They threw soldiers to the wolves, and they made heroes that weren't heroes, they made villains that weren't villains, and I want to bring them down for it because they benefited from it.
Thank you so much. And we're going to get a little bit more into that nitty-gritty a little bit later. And I want to hear from John now. I always love hearing John speak, and like many here, I've watched Ithaca and been following the Assange story and the dedication you have to him, and what a generous and humble, beautiful soul that you are, John. So how about you just giving us a bit of an update on Julian's case and where the appeal's at, and when, I'm not even sure myself about whether a final decision has been made, why he's in limbo, and perhaps what similarities you might see between David's case and Julian's, and what it would mean for Julian's case if he's acquitted or if the Attorney General intervenes. What impact, what does that say in Julian's case?
5 questions.
Cross-examine you if you don't answer them properly.
She's a lawyer.
Thanks for coming, everybody, and more cheers to David. We carry our champions on our shoulders. Julian is waiting upon a decision as to whether he can have a hearing. The Judge Swift, in his judgment, said that the defence must limit itself to 20 pages and 15 minutes if he gets the hearing. So the prosecution is similarly limited. So we've been waiting for that for quite a while now. Julian continues, of course, to deteriorate after 14 years. That's the grim side of things. On the other side of things, not since Paul Keating said that Australia's defence is within Asia, not from Asia, not since then have Australians exercised their sovereignty of the nation as a nation, except with the coming of the Assange case that has now propelled Australia back into being a sovereign entity. The leader of the opposition gives support. The Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, 88% of Australians, 64 parliamentarians signed a letter, 50 in the Assange group, 6 went to the United States recently, the delegation, cross-party, very fine men and women, Monique Ryan being a woman. So contemplate that for a minute. The first act of sovereignty in 18 years has been in defence of an Australian citizen by Australian citizens. This is extraordinary and wonderful. It'll be the same with David McBride's matter. We will amalgamate behind the understanding that the virtuous and moral standing of a whistleblower, a term I don't like actually, but let's say we just go with them and call a whistleblower. The virtuous and moral standing of a whistleblower brings reform to an organisation suffering from decay. What is the decay? From memory, forgive me if it's slightly wrong, 46 Australians, soldiers, died in Afghanistan. This is human sacrifice in order to propitiate an imperium which is indifferent to that sacrifice. 46 young Australians thinking that they're defending Australia, sent to Afghanistan and die there. The absurdity or the nihilism that contains, the sort of nothingness, the spiritual emptiness of sending young men to Afghanistan to die for the imperium has infected those that have served in Afghanistan, and the suicide rate is just extraordinary. It's just like blinding, despite the fact that the Veteran Affairs, that if you say as a returned soldier that you're thinking of self-destruction, of self-harm, they devote all of their resources to you. It's not a failing of the Veteran Affairs. It's a failing of spirit that we do not send our young men that have courage and willingness to defend our community. We do not send them at the behest of an imperium to sacrifice, human sacrifice, in order to propitiate or suck up to that imperium. It's just got to stop. Yeah. And that's the gift that David brought to you, and the gift that Julian brought is to publish fearlessly what men and women like David bring to advise the public of the actual circumstances. The last comment I might make is the importance of speaking the truth. And what, to convert David's words into poetry, what forbids to tell the truth laughingly? Nothing. Just one more. Negotiating, as Gabrielle and I, wandering around the United States, we've been there. We did 60 events in 47 days in 42 cities in the United States. I mean, you know, that's hard work for an old fellow, I tell you. Negotiating with people in the United States is this image, like playing chess with a passion. They knocks over all the pieces and then shits on the board.
Have come out that PTSD and suicide, not necessarily just to do with, you know, the horrific things that people see in the front line, but the cover-ups. And I think that's what Major McCord was alluding to, what he saw and kind of got gaslit out of, you know, as, you know, a contribution to those statistics. I think, yeah, it's important to remember when this is so important to speak about the truth about this particular war, because didn't we go based on a lie at the beginning? Like, isn't it our job now to support these guys, to unravel all of those mistruths and speak out whilst we still can? Because we are living in very scary times, and I know that sounds a little alarmist, but our democracy is in a lot of trouble at the moment. So for many people, they already know, so sorry if you do know this stuff. And it's like grade 10 legal studies, but we tend to forget about it. And it's so important. And I really want everyone to take this away with them tonight. Our system of government is supposedly this democracy that comes under the umbrella of the rule of law, and we have, you know, this thing called the separation of powers doctrine in Australia. So we have 3 arms of government, okay, and they're all meant to keep checks and balances on each other, and each of those arms of government has an independence that none of the others can encroach upon. And the first one is called the first estate, is the Parliament, and the second estate they call is the legislature. So the Parliament makes the laws, the legislature makes the laws, that's the Parliament, and then the executive, they implement the laws. And under the executive umbrella are, you know, New South Wales, all the police, the ADF, the AFP, they're executing the laws. And then you have the judiciary, which you go to. And so often people turn to the courts when there's been an overreach of power in one of those arms of government, because there's not much separation between the bureaucrats and the executive and the Parliament. So that's where David is now, turning to the courts, and that's what I do, turn to the courts to get some justice when there's been an overreach and that power balance needs to be returned. But the problem we have now and all around the world in democracies is there's the fourth estate, which kind of corrupts our democracy, and that's the mainstream media. And they've got so much power in framing the narrative, and sometimes more power, and it can work in your favour. You know, if we can flip the media on side here with Julian and David, like that could be enough pressure on the politicians or the Attorney General to intervene and withdraw this prosecution and send Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese overseas to do some megaphone politics, no more hiding in the corridors, and bring Julian Assange home.
Yes!
So what we've got here with David's case in particular is he's been failed by the first arm of government, the legislature, the Parliament, because they've created these whistleblower laws that don't even protect a whistleblower, okay? So he's been failed there. And then he's gone to the executive arm of government, the very top of his military, the ADF. Gaslit down, no one listening. He's gone to the AFP, also part of the executive. No one wanted to do anything. And that's why he ended up in the media to try to go to the fourth estate, and that's why he's facing court, to see if the judiciary will act in that independence that they need to bring this ridiculous, dystopian, gaslighting situation to an end and to some justice. And when I was reading about David and Julian's cases over the years, I work down at mental health tribunal sometimes, and I thought, like, it was just, really? I couldn't believe it. It was so ridiculous that it was almost unbelievable, their stories, that these people exposing the truth are the ones that are going to go to jail, you know, and the real people, the criminals, the real cover-ups, are just continuing to, you know, immune their friends and mates from prosecution. So, in regards to the fourth estate, the mainstream media, of course, we can't do much about that, but there's the fifth estate. And do you know what the fifth estate is? The people! Okay? Because our democracy has been corrupted by political donations that are making decisions on our behalf and crowding out our democratic voice. We don't have one vote, one voice anymore, okay? But the fifth estate is where we can get back our power, okay? And the fifth estate is about social media, it's about blogging, websites, and putting as much pressure as we can to make our voice heard above those other powers that are not listening. So that's why tonight's very important to make sure you get down these important tags and hashtags on Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media platform you are, and get some quotes from these guys tonight when they're talking and start getting the message out there, and let's take our democratic voice back and take over the fifth estate. So, I'm going over to David and John again to tell us, you know, maybe what they've got any comment on that. They think that's just stupid, or I don't know, yes. Or and how specifically, and how you'd like everyone here to help. What we can do, like what messages, yeah.
Well, you're already here, so but you are doing a fantastic. Something we can do now. It wouldn't have worked a year ago. But the zeitgeist is changing. And remember, people stopped the Vietnam War. I mean, it can be done, you know. And some of you probably here were involved in it. I was a kid myself, and I remember it. And so the people power can work, because politicians, they will do anything which is going to make them popular. And Eddie's right. The problem is really the fourth estate at the moment, because the average person who doesn't follow politics much, they think we went to Afghanistan to make the world a safer place. You know, and had the press covered the truth, they never would have thought that. They think we went to Iraq because we were going to do something good there somehow, you know. And if the press had covered the truth, we would have, you know, said Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, George Bush, they'd all be in jail, you know. But and we've seen that in the 70s, that it is actually possible to bring these people down. So one thing you can do now is write letters to the editor in the Australian as well as the Herald, and they will publish them. You might get people and the next day wanting to argue with you, but to show the mainstream that there are people out there who say, what about David McBride? How is Mike Pizzullo is always leaking apparently to the media? You know, why is this happening? It's because it's at that tipping point. It's like the water is just on the top of the levee bank now, and we can get it. It could be your drop that makes it flow over. So anyway, but I'm going to thank you. You're all here. You're all supporters, and I'm not going to say you give more blood. You've already given a lot, and I just want to thank you for that.
Just thinking of a way to add something that's, you know, to polish something that's already brightly shining. In 1948, an Australian named Herbert Bear Evatt was president of the United Nations and introduced, and under his aegis in his term, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's the secular Bible. It took about 10,000 years of human civilization to reach a world-embracing universal declaration of human rights. Herbert Bear Ebbett. Herbert's mum, he had 5 brothers, Herbert's mum was a publican. The point I'm going to make is that all genius of a nation extends from its people. Is, what's the word when a hen sits on an egg? Is incubated within the people, within us, within our hearts, within our spirit, and within the logos, the conversations that we have with each other each and every day are what brought us here together today. Just the conversations, because it ain't in the newspaper or on the TV. It's the conversations that we speak to each other over a beer or a cup of tea or over dinner or walking along the street with a companion. That's what made it. In 1973, at the United Nations, Australia introduced the Conventions of Asylum, which were passed with a magnificent majority and only 16 abstentions. That came from us. Nowhere else. The government at that time was a Labor government. All of the people in that government didn't descend into government from being already in government. They arose from within us. Medicare arose from within us. Tertiary education, free, arose from within us. Supplements to students, a living allowance to students, arose from within us because we understood that the education of our children is essential to the understanding of where we are in the world and how to flourish for ourselves, for our families, for our, I'll use the word community, but I mean our group of friends, the extended family, and our nation. Easy to understand, easy to grasp, easy to hang on to. Also the last comment. The essence of truth. It just gets so exhausting to be lied to constantly in newspapers and TV and politicians and those who grasp the public podium to bully us into down wrong alleys, down dead ends rather. I'm fed up with it. And just tonight it's so really refreshing that here we are in a singular moment of togetherness, bringing forth a truthfulness and an understanding, and that will permeate. You don't need to do much. And I can offer you a proof of that. They, governments, corporations, institutions of state, embark upon censorship because the logos is where the power is. Just have a chat to each other and bring... Oh, there's another thing. In the Bible, it says... what does it say? Where three people are gathered together in my name, I will be there. This is an allegory for truthfulness. Where three people or more are gathered together, looking to find a truth, the truth will come. It does, as we are here. It's a circular argument I have made. However, the cycle is complete. You know, we are here, and you are carrying David McBride on your shoulders as a champion, and carrying Julian Assange on your shoulders as a champion. I rest my case.
Just before we kick off Q&A over to you guys, David, I just wanted to get your comment about that PTSD issue that was raised, and you know how you're going, you know, with what you've experienced, and how prevalent you think that kind of PTSD is of, you know, getting so traumatised by, you know, the gaslighting and the cover-ups, and how many people in the military are like aware of that? Is it like, is everyone aware that it's going on? Are they all just loyal soldiers and covering up, or is it as you get higher?
Yeah, well, I'm pleased to see in the public arena there's been talk about moral injury as opposed to PTSD, and Ethan McCord and myself would both probably be classified as moral injury when you realise that you've gone into the military for all the right reasons and you're working for the bad guys. I mean, that really fucks your head. That's the real reason why we've got so many suicides. It's not because, you know, bombs going off or shooting guns. I mean, that's what you join for. There's no PTSD in the war zone. We're wired for that, or certain members, are. But it's when you realise that your own organisation are lying, cheating dogs, that's when it really messes you around, and that's why people kill themselves. The veterans' hospitals are full of people who realise their own organisation are despicable, lying people, and that's why my battle is important. I fight for all the people like me who have got moral injury, not just in the Defence Force, but you know, I meet people all the time who contact me and say, I work for the Department of blah blah blah, and I was, as soon as I said something is wrong in the department, I was crushed. I lost my job. You know, you got whistleblowers like Jeff Morris and Troy Stoltz, and they've got quite a good campaign now where they're just saying, don't do it, you will get crushed. And I think it's like, you know, it could be quite a good sort of reverse psychology campaign when you get all these famous whistleblowers say, you will get smashed by your own government, and they will pretend smiling. I mean, it's so bad. This is what happened to me. They sent the Australian military sent me to a psychiatrist who was an ANU sort of visiting professor, and he gaslit me and said it's all in your imagination, and you know, you have a sense of entitlement. That's why. And because he was a senior psychiatrist in a nice suit, I didn't totally rule it out for a while. Put me on antidepressants, which slowed me down, you know, within 5 minutes of meeting him, and it's pretty bloody sinister. You know, and they got caught out with that. That tax office as well, they were sending, there was a story in Crikey about it, it's called the hired guns or something like that, and the tax office had to pay damages for sending people to chosen psychiatrists, potential whistleblowers, who told them they were mad. Isn't that disgusting? That was in 2013, and they've learned this. Guess which country they learned this from? You know, they've got a PowerPoint on it. and that's called How to Manage High Conflict Employees, which is potential whistleblower. Send them to far-flung places without their partner, blah, 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 send them to psychiatrists and get them. This is the sort of people that run our country. You guys know that. No place in Australia would you know that better than her, but I mean, this is why my case is important. It's not just about the military, it's about our government and how far off track we have become.
And I'll just point out what a hero this guy is, because he could have taken a deal, pleaded guilty to something, and the whole thing just washes away, but he's risking his life, his liberty and everything, because this is so important. So the very least that we can do, there's over 100 in here tonight, is just do what we can to support the campaigns, donating and spreading the message. And I love the idea of a new hashtag, moral injury, because I don't think that story is really out there about, the PTSD linked with suicides of soldiers who have just been gaslit in that way that they have. And just over to you, John, just on the mental health stuff, because you've been through so much. How do you keep yourself sane amongst all this? And how does Julian keep himself sane? Does he feel the support? How's he going? And how do you balance your life with all of this gaslighting that's going on?
Julian keeps himself sane. He tours Europe, and he's worn out 3 pairs of runners. So the cell is about 3 metres long, so he goes up and down and marks it off, and he travels from Paris to Barcelona and then Barcelona to Madrid and so on. So that's how he keeps himself in good order, as well as being intensely focused on the legal and political matters surrounding his case. Me, I'm here with you. This is sweet. I'm amongst warm people. There was a beautiful day there. I can't ask for more. It's just been wrong. And also, there are, really special, spiritual, if you want to use that word, elements that are involved. Everywhere, we've been to 55 countries in the world, and, just on it goes for the last 5, 6 years, 2016. I find this singular thing, that people everywhere have a hunger to see justice and a complete revulsion at the sight of injustice. That's it. That's what we're doing. And those elements that put before us to reduce our standing as human beings, I resist. So there's not too many people. I resist that. We're not killing the planet. I resist that. Anything that corrodes the capacity to act in your own interests and your family's interests. So when they say things that cause us terrible anxiety, and as a consequence, we place our safety in the hands of authority. I better say, we look for certainty, and we look for certainty, and we place that in the hands of power. I resist it. We have problems, of course. We have difficulties. Every zeitgeist has its difficulties. But I resist with all my breath the reduction of human beings from the aspirations that they have within them to rise above their circumstance and to be moral and virtuous. That's where I am.
Hoffman here, who's training with me to be a lawyer at the moment. She's going to be holding the roving mic, and it's over to you guys to ask questions.
I've been following the speeches of Robert Kennedy Jr. recently, and in one of his speeches he said that he would pardon Julian if he was president. I don't know if you're aware of that, but he's certainly got the regulatory bodies and the corrupt politicians in his side. Some hope, I guess. I just wondered if you're aware of it, and also the American, well, if he does get in the military-industrial complex in America, will be getting a thorough cleaning, along with the big agro-biz and the EPA and all the regulatory bodies.
We have a personal relationship with Robert Kennedy Jr., Cornell West, and Marianne Wilkinson, all of them candidates for in the presidential election. I'll probably see Robert Kent Bobby on 28th of October in San Francisco. Yeah.
What is it, Vance?
Oh, nothing. Did I have a minute? Anyway, something that you mentioned before, Eddie, in terms of the fourth estate and the fifth estate, is the misinformation legislation that's being pushed through, to my understanding at the moment, or roughly at the moment, give or take. I've looked through the legislation myself, and I'm saying that the allowable misinformation is anything said by the government, anything said by professional news. Whereas they're coming after us for what they see as misinformation content online, with the ability to impose massive fines on the companies that host it. I'm just wondering whether any of you have any thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, well, I grew up in the shadow of the Second World War and wanting to idolising people storming the beaches of Normandy and parachuting out of planes. It was heroic at the time, but this will be our generation's Normandy. This is where we can become heroes. It's fighting that you're right to care that if we don't fight that small thing now, our children will absolutely, definitely grow up in a dystopian world, worse than anything you've ever seen in a sci-fi movie. It is the poison gas in legislation. The government will put out blanket false information. Corporations will pay for it, and yeah, we will be living in that world. So you're right to fight it. It won't be easy. Of course, they're going to use all the weapons they can. Paint you as a conspiracy theorist, you'll be taken off. People will be taken off to prison. People will probably have to die fighting this. That's why my case is so important. It's quite important to show people we're not afraid of going to jail. Go to jail with a smile on your face. Because that scares them more than anything. They get people to comply because people are scared. Someone like Mike Pizzullo could not imagine in his wildest dreams that I could go to jail and be happy about it when he wouldn't give up his lunch money to do the right thing. And that's scary.
Can I just add one more? Oh, okay, there's someone else going. I just wanted to say this is not just Australia, it's the Five Eyes Security Council, to my understanding. So
There's no Australia in that regard.
Hello. First of all, my total admiration for your courage and perseverance. And I want to say, I still feel nauseous. I feel actually still walking off to the toilet and after seeing that first movie that really touched me. And I admire that you say, let's do, we have to resist with a laugh. And after the first film, I will be what I hope you're still okay. I started to think that we have to start screaming and showing that we are not okay with what's happening and not necessarily have to laugh. I worked with military between 2001 and 2005, the ones who went from Holland to so-called peace missions, and I saw them coming back. And then we still behave too nicely, as if it's normal. I hope you're okay. No, I am not okay. And what happens in the Gaza in a moment, I cannot sleep. But still life goes on. So isn't it time to be feeling more, showing more our feelings? And I don't know.
I guess what happens then is they just bring in more draconian laws to shut us down. And, they're coming for our words. And I said to Dro tonight, the performance poet, they're coming for art next. And I think it's valid to feel all of those things. And I think David and John probably have felt all of those different emotions of outrage and grief and then empathy and compassion. And it must be a huge journey, emotional journey for you both to go through. Have you got any comments to that question?
No, it's a good point. I mean, you're right to stay angry. You should be very angry, but I would advise you to keep it on the down low. This is where we're heading. It's people like yourself. You go out there and be angry, and I'll put you in an asylum. I'll put you in jail. And we need to win over the middle ground. We need to win over. I will die in jail if just the people of Lismore support me. We know that. And they don't care. I mean, like John's had, he's probably got 10 million supporters for Julian in the US. He'll die with 10 million. It's not enough. It's a fringe group. We need to win the middle ground over, and that's why we smile. That's why we look good. And you're from Northern Europe. Some of the people I really admire that I read were teenage girls who took downed airmen and escaped prisoners of war from Belgium through France over the mountains of Spain. Just because they thought it was the right thing to do, and they risked their lives, but they would have had to keep secret. They didn't go out there protesting against the Nazis, they just get run over. But do stuff, by all means, keep doing stuff, but be careful not to get marginalised, be not to get considered a crazy person, because that won't help. We have to win over the people who aren't sure, the people who read the Sydney Morning Herald, the people who read the Australian, because without that we can't win. And that involves trying to attract the middle of the road people. And we won't do that by blowing ourselves up, but we will do it by consistently writing letters to the editor, befriending people. When at Christmas, if I'm in jail, go and speak to your friends and tell them what a good person I am. Look at Eddie. She has remarkable success in court, and she goes and she talks about big issues and the rights of protest, and the magistrate just lets people out of jail. with Charles.
Rage grows in the heart of what's happened and happening. Rage, 14 years Julian's been in one form of incarceration or another. So rage, yes, it grows in the heart, but also what grows is guile. We want to win. And we'll be guileful. We'll work on three parallel planes. One is parliamentary democracy. The other is the logos, spreading the word. The third is we meet each other at the barricades. We're there at the barricades when the time comes.
Hello guys, thanks for everything you're sharing, it's beautiful, wonderful to hear. Honesty, don't get much of it in our society. Wondering, how many jail cells are there in New South Wales that we have to fill before we can clog up their system so that they can't go ahead and prosecute people that don't need prosecuting? How many jail cells are there? And
About 14,000 in New South Wales.
how many of them are currently filled?
Now, it is a good point, and one thing I'd like to do, because there's not, there isn't that many police. And most of ASIO are probably taken up tracking me and Bernard Galleri and Richard Moore. In fact, that would be all of them. And someone could go and blow the harbour bridge and no one would even notice. But I wanted to do like a Gandhi sort of style, not quite passive, where resistance, where everybody who works in the government is unhappy takes their official papers and gives them to journalists. So there's like millions of papers to journalists. Now, there wouldn't be any, they couldn't prosecute probably another 5 people. You can imagine if there was 50,000 leakers. And it's all crime. It doesn't matter when the stories get published, you've still committed a crime. And everybody just takes their papers home and gives them to journalists. And Sydney Morning Herald has got 10 metres high pile with government papers stamped secret. I'm like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can't put us all in jail. So I want you to go and be a leaker tomorrow and get a few people and just leak. Because you're right, they've got very limited resources. The emperor is naked. They could not handle another 10 whistleblowers. The system would collapse. It's that pathetic. It's Mike Pizzullo dancing around his little boots, stamping his feet. They don't really have. This is one of the reasons I got so angry. There isn't really a national security system. There's a PR system. That's why they love stopping the boats and putting defenceless people who were coming here, would have made great Australians, and let them drown in the Timor Sea because it looked good for the marginal Sikh voters in Parramatta. That's all they care about is the media. There is no national security. A determined terrorist could get anything done in this country because it's all about window dressing. It's all, well, you guys know that, but I'm preaching to the converted. But you'd even be surprised, even though you're insiders and you're inside the tent, you would be surprised how far off track we've gone. The only people that get anything done and get any money these days is the goddamn PR department, and there isn't any real action. It's all about the next election cycle and what are we going to put up, and well, you know that, you guys live it, but I mean, it's bad. It's not just the Defence Force. Well, Australia's not protected because we just care about putting out ads and green screen and rubbish.
just one thing, is not to place yourself as an enemy of the state. Always praise the system. Always do that. So, for example, with the Assange thing, the will of the people moves towards the representatives in Parliament. The representatives in Parliament take the will of the people and place it before the executive and insist that the executive obey the will of Parliament and the people. So always don't go against the state. They'll destroy you, as they've seen with Julian Assange. On it goes. But utilise the tools that the state pronounces and announces and backs up. Parliamentary representation, advocation to the parliamentary groups that represent Assange in this case, or in McBride's case. Then you will see a change emerge, as we have done with Julian Assange, 88% of the population support. But if we had placed ourselves between the state and its governance, they'd destroy me, the rest of my family, my friends, because there's always something they can do. They make stuff up anyway. They don't even need proof. They just make it up, because if you become an enemy of the state will use its tools to destroy you. So we don't want that. What we want is Julian to come home as an example of the unity and sovereignty of the Australian populace protecting one of its own.
Where, things should be heading for David. Like, David had the highest security clearance. You've got so much information, so much knowledge about all the problems in the system. Why aren't they spinning this and, letting David inform how to rectify and clean up, the ADF and all those departments?
David for Defence Minister.
Yeah, that's good. And I too, it is my dream, apart from coming back to Lismore after Eddie's let me out. And my other dream is to be a consultant of the Defence Force, and because it can be fixed, and we need. You'd reckon the Chief of Defence Force, he needs to be able to say, or she, no, Minister. It's not that bloody hard. And but of course they've worked it out. I think after Vietnam they did this in a bit like the information laws that you were just talking about. It was insidious because sometimes parliamentarians would say, "Oh, we're making great advances in Vietnam or whatever," and commanders on the ground in Vietnam would go, "No, we're not. That's not true." And of course that caused a lot of problems, and so they did an inquiry. And after the war, and it seemed that the parliamentarians by using spinning parliamentary principles to say the army works for the parliament or whatever, they managed to get control of the military. And now you don't get to be CDF unless you're a yes person. They seem to select people, and they've got a very bad system. And anyone that works in a government department, or in fact the corporate world, would know this. The person who sucks up the most gets promoted. And they weed out anybody who says, really, that's not what, the manual says something different. That's the frustrating thing about me. We didn't even follow our own manuals. I mean, we teach people, obviously, to report war crimes and do the right thing. over millions of lectures. The CDS could give you a lecture about leadership, would bring a tears to your eye. And that's what really bothered me, is that we become a nation of lying hypocrites, real estate agents. You know, and it's disgusting. Sorry, I'm real estate. I'm sure you're very good in this audience. But give me a discount on my house that I live with in Lismore when Eddie gets out. But we need to get back to telling the truth. I mean, it's just, you go to the local public school and you see all the kids stand up and say, stand up to bullies and tell the truth and all that. You know, that's Australia. Where did we get involved? Where did we change it where you become 18 and you start lying and cheating and that's what you do to get ahead, and that's pretty disgusting, but it can be fixed. There are so many good people in Australia. One of the things, and John would be the same, one of the great things about my case, you've got to be grateful for your enemies in some ways, because they give you a reason for living and fighting that you might otherwise never had. And this opportunity has given me a million friends like yourself. I've met people in Australia who are just like yourselves, who I just adore, who support me and give me the shirt off their back and shake my hand. And I had it today, a lovely lady who made little David wherever he is. Here he is. I mean that. And I met like a 5-year-old girl who painted a picture of me and wanted to get a hug from me. I mean, that just brings a tear in your eye. And this is fantastic reception in this town. And there are some we can all be very proud, because while the country might be run by dickheads, there's a lot of very, very good people in Australia, of which you are part.
See some hands up. We'll get to you.
Oh, John, yeah, go on.
You can pass his mic.
Oh, wow, that's big. I just want to make a couple of comments and then also ask a question. First comment is, David, if you wind up not going to jail, I think you have a future in stand-up. But I also want to say that we all stand with Julian. I believe that what we've witnessed over these past several years has really brought home how every one of us is a target in a sense, because with the, long before they started talking about this disinformation bill, they've been censoring us on social media, in public. They've been trying to curtail our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly, our freedom of speaking out about anything. And I find this highly, highly distressing. I am American by birth, please don't hold it against me, but I've been a proud Australian for over 25 years. And I'm just very, very distressed to see this type of thing happening. And as far as the gaslighting is concerned, I think you'll find that they must have hired the military-industrial complex to run the insurance industry in this country, because I know several people who've been denied workers' compensation insurance and been sent to shrinks and told they're crazy, even though they can no longer work again due to their injuries. So similar tactics are being employed, this gaslighting and this horrendous psychological, I don't know what you want to call it, onslaught. It's not a good thing. Anyway, my question is, as regards something you mentioned early in the piece, which was about this edifice of loyalty and honor in the military. Now, I spoke to someone today who's the president of one of the clubs locally, one of the sporting clubs. His daughter served in Afghanistan. She was on 2 tours of duty. She was in a van that was hit by a bomb, and she survived. She also helped to rescue children and so forth. And when I told him that I was coming to this presentation this evening, he said, "Oh, you got to watch out about these whistleblower guys. They might be just talking about soldiers who, in the midst of the horrendous things that everyone witnesses, experiencing trauma, witnessing things that no human should ever have to see. Everybody makes mistakes," is what he was saying. And I said, "Well, I think you'll find the difference is this maybe was not a mistake." Now, how do we convince military families and well-meaning people out there who honor our men who have served in the past, who are serving presently in various conflicts around the globe? How do we convince people that this is coming from the top down, and that we're not attacking the soldiers themselves, because we know what hell they're going through, and they're not getting the support they need, and this really upsets me. Yeah. So, what can we do?
I just want to say something, and I probably won't have a chance. I'm a frontline activist who's broken into places like Shoalwater Bay, Pine Gap, and numerous other things. And I've had 3 friends murdered by the state. You say there's not worse things than going to jail, but by hit and run, 2 of them on the way back from protest. One, and the other one supposedly threw himself in front of a logging truck, right, and committed suicide. He locked on up at Shoalwater Bay at Operation Talisman Sabra. That's just 3 of my friends. I tell you, there's worse things than going to jail. The state will murder frontline activists who are out in the middle of nowhere, where no one can sort of see it. And I can tell you their names and the circumstance, but I just want to say before I go that I know jail's a really bad thing, but as a frontline activist who's been to and broken into a lot of military and mining sites, it's quite stressful that friends of mine have been murdered, 3 of them, by the state, and they were all hardcore frontline activists. One of them had locked on up at Shoalwater Bay onto a US military vehicle, and the other 2 had been variously part of the Desert Liberation Front and other stuff. So
thank you. There's just so many crazy things going on.
I just want to say before I go,
Appreciate
that we don't get any support, we don't get any media, we don't get any attention, and I would love it. It's all very well, I know people lock on the Harbour Bridge, but it's all, it'd be really great if people could support a lot of the frontline activists who are out there at mining sites.
Very true.
And all that stuff. And good on you, I'm glad. And, I really admire what you're both doing, but it would be nice just for once if people knew that actually there's worse things than going to jail.
Well, thank you for letting us know. We really appreciate that. And I think activists on the front line do get a lot more support than they're getting. So I think John had a question here in the front row. We're very patient here. John, would you like to ask a question?
By the police for chalking on a wall, please plan safe. Right, I have my hand up, people always ignore me, but I got threatened this afternoon to get arrested. Just for chalking on a wall, please plant trees and safe.
Okay, John, would you like to ask a question?
Can I just get an answer to my question when there's a chance?
Very briefly.
If you remember what it is.
Very briefly, is the David Hicks case helpful in this case?
Well, it's not a good model, although some people say, Julian's a geopolitical football. David was falsely thrown into Guantanamo Bay, and you could say that there is a slight parallel it was said that once the support for David Hicks rose above 2.5% of the population, then it became a matter of politics to solve. The support for Julian is 88%, so I guess,
What was you up the back? And what I have forgotten the question. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just addressing what you had said early in the piece about loyalty and honour within the military, and military families whose own children have served and suffered, like this fellow who is the president of a sporting club locally, and his daughter served in Afghanistan. She was in a
yeah, no, I remember that.
But so he's like, well, okay, how do you break through the gaslighting within the military families who are so staunchly loyal to the military? Oh, they couldn't possibly do anything wrong. Do you know what I mean? And we're not blaming the soldiers themselves on the ground. It's coming from elsewhere, right? So how do we get that across?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's actually something I want to tackle in a sort of short YouTube video before the case, because the reality, often I travel around, often people don't know who I am, and you often hear things like that. One of the catchphrases is, what happens on operations stays on operations. And it's okay. I mean, there's no bad thing that a country honours its service people. And there is a perception. There is still, Ben Roberts-Smith has still got 25,000 supporters on Facebook. So, but you've got to laugh, mate. And it's, we have to be quiet. It's attraction rather than promotion. You know, you will always, one of the realities, the harsh realities about being in my position, it takes a while to get used to, is you know that 20% of the people are still going to hate you for whatever reason. You do get people that say, oh yeah, you know, yeah, he must be some sort of, and even I don't particularly like other whistleblowers. I hear about a whistleblower, I think, oh, he's probably a difficult person. it's human nature. But I was invited to a whistleblower conference, and I thought, oh, kill me now. The last thing I want to be is in a room of whinging people going on about how bad their department treated them. I thought, fuck. I'd rather go on a holiday somewhere. But I got there, and it was actually pretty good, you know. And they were surprisingly nice. And they all had an interesting story to tell, not unlike my own. But we have this sort of subconscious perception that whistleblowers are people who whingers, who couldn't hack it, and you know, whatever. And you will get people like your friend from the football club, and by all means tell him David McBride says hello. And it's promotion. There is no doubt, whatever he may think, I am more of a man than someone that took a defenceless person out the back and blew their brains out and got a medal for it. And he can drink all the beers. He can mutter under his breath when he has his beer down the pub, but the truth is the truth, and one of us is a hero and one of us is not.
And that's a good question, because when I was doing some research on this tonight, I was looking into the Ben Roberts-Smith case and realising, you know, that the people who are honest get punished, you know, and those that are loyal get rewarded. And I would think that in those military families, that hopefully David's case is not completely shut down under national security, aka humiliation protection provisions, and we can hear about it, because his case is in stark contrast to Ben Roberts. And I guess Ben Roberts, maybe he's a sociopath as well, I don't know, murderer, apparently. Maybe he was so arrogant and just went all the way to sue for defamation because he was so protected by those above him. Did that clear him? Is that why he had so much confidence to run that defamation trial? Now, getting yourself another charge.
I'm a bit sick of hearing from me, but in his case, it's a perfect example as to why I'm after the commanders. It's been established that in 2006, before we fully committed to Afghanistan, he shot an unarmed boy, a bit like the ones we just saw in that video, and it was described as a boy, and they knew he was unarmed, and Robert Smith shot him, and then they claimed later, he was a spotter. Now this is what I say to people like the bloody football club. The people who were unhappy about it weren't journalists. It wasn't Eddie, it wasn't you. It was two other SAS soldiers who were every bit as brave, every bit as strong, every bit as putting their life on the line for the country. They said to him, that's bullshit. You just killed that kid. And they gave Robert Smith the medal. And he bullied the two people that said, what are you doing? And he almost drove one of them to suicide. Now that guy's still in the SAS. He's a hero. He's an absolute hero. And they didn't want to give evidence against him. But it was SAS soldiers that stood up to Robert Smith. But guess who made him inviolable? The fucking government. The government gave him a medal, and he was the first person, the details really matter of this, who was able to give a press conference. Normally the SAS didn't do press conferences, but the media people saw him. They saw how handsome he was. They saw what a good talker he was. And all that, oh shucks man, I'm just doing my job. He knew how to play the part. And he gave a media conference in 2006. Before he got the VC, one of the things that came out of the defamation trial is he wasn't at the top of the short list for the VC, but the PR people put him up there. And so they created him. They used him as much as you used them. And they're the people I'm going for. The PR people who made this dangerous... People at the SAS were complaining about Robert Smith. And the media and the government used him because they knew he was useful to popularising the war. Brendan Nelson, John Howard thought this is great. Every time, what you don't realise, you guys do, but most people don't, every time a minister is pinning a VC or something on a person, they're not doing it because they think the person's brave, they're doing it because they will get a bump in the opinion polls. It's quite sickening. And there was a couple of VCs which didn't deserve to really happen, frankly. But they did it because the politician wanted to have a good news story for themselves. And that's how we run wars today. And that's disgusting. And they're the people I'm going for. That's it.
We've got time for a couple more questions. This is your last opportunity. Is there a hand up over there? Over here we've got one. And over there. And there. And there. Probably two more questions, I think.
I got a question for David McBride. And I saw that uniform, I recognised it, mate. On the film, I went to the same place as you. My name's Dave as well. I'm not living in Lismore, and I was interested in what you said, that not everyone's going to be on the same page as people from Lismore. That's true. I've been working in the tannery. I worked with an ex-serviceman who was in Afghanistan, and he wouldn't hear a bad word said about Ben Robert Smith. And lots of co-workers were also defensive. So, yeah, we're talking about getting that fifth estate on board and hopefully getting the same kind of support behind heroes such as yourself as Julian Assange is now getting. What my question is I'm a layperson in the legal profession and all that, thank goodness for that. I'm asking this question because you have legal expertise, and I've read that the AFP's doing its criminal investigation into these allegations of these 39 murders of civilians, I believe the number is. My question is, the BRS exhibit's still up there at the War Memorial, and so there might be a perception that he's still a thing. He was a brave hero, and absolutely he's got physical courage that I'd never have, but my question is, what do you think the time frame on that AFP investigation is going to be? And after hearing sort of rhetoric about the influence of the Fifth Estate, the people, what happens in Australia in the legal system? Does, if something came out of that and these people were found to be, criminals, war criminals, and supposing you are languishing in a prison cell by that time, what does that do for your case? I mean, does any office in the land have the power to change your circumstances in the way Chelsea Manning's circumstances were changed, for example? That's my question. I hope it's easy enough to understand. But there's still... That's my question. I mean, is there a time frame for something like that? And when that comes out, that these fellas are criminals, if it is the case, what does that do for you? Because your case is coming up very soon.
It's a good question. It's a good question, and I'm mindful people probably want to get to the bar very soon. But it's... the two things are unconnected because the government says, and this is one of the big problems, they shouldn't be unconnected, but the government says whatever happened, you are not allowed to reveal, you are not allowed to embarrass us. Because you're right, in a fair world I wouldn't even be on trial now. After the Brereton report, after all the other things, after Robo did, if this was the 70s and we had a Washington Post like they did then, and the New York Times like they did then, I would be awarded medals by now because they would have done an inquiry into how Robert Smith got the Victoria Cross, and some people, the PR people I talked about would have been sacked, and they would have looked at all the email trails and to see, like they did with the Vietnam War and Watergate, to sort of go through to say who knew what when. I'm hunting for the people at the top. They know that, and they are doing their best to put up a smokescreen. In some ways, there's a lot of levels to this, and this is sort of PhD. What they really don't want in Australia is the International Criminal Court, which you'll know about being lost in coming to Australia, because they will look not at the corporals, not at the Robert Smiths, but the Minister and the Chief of the Defence Force. Now, of course, that fills them with fear. They're not brave people. And what they were trying to do is some sort of... I think they're trying to play both sides here, where they say they're going to have prosecutions, so they get the International Criminal Court offside. But they're not really going to have prosecutions. They're going to draw it out because they know that people like your workmates will absolutely go to town, and they will lose a lot of votes on the right wing if they actually do put people on trial. They've only put one guy on trial, and that's because the whole world saw him execute someone. And he will go to trial after me. I mean, and they would never have put Oliver Schultz on trial unless they played that video around the world. They were backed into a corner and they had no choice. What I think they're doing, again, this is high-level stuff which might go over people, because they did the same in the UK, and they try to win both the left wing and the right wing. They've got the PR people doing the numbers, and they'll say, oh, we have to care about war crimes, so we'll do. In England, they had a thing like Brereton, and they had cases prepared against like 50 years, strong cases where they were clearly murders against 50 British SAS and equivalent people. And then the Conservatives got in, and their polling people, Linton Crosby works over there, the polling people said, oh, there's all the people, the Telegraph readers who don't want our boys going on trial. Our frontline was going on trial. It's going to be a vote loser. So every single one of those cases that were prepared was dropped. They were all, and of course it was all fake. It was all like, oh, the evidence is not strong enough, or the witness is sick, or whatever. But that shows you how sick our societies have come. There wasn't a single case. And the detectives were so angry. They said, we had prepared these cases. Some of them, it was so clear cut, where they cut and paste, oh, the detainee reached for a grenade at the last bit. And they just cut and paste. The next day they killed someone else and they said the detainee reached for a grenade. And it was clearly a murder. They didn't prosecute any of them because they were worried about backlash from the right-wing nuts who might have the balance of power in marginal seats. So be prepared for wheels within wheels in politics, but that's why we stay strong. That's why, people that go around and fire guns are, it can be heroic, but as long as it's true. But going to jail is heroic, and if I hold my head up high, you people support me, you allow me, without you, I would die. I would have definitely died years ago. But without my supporters, we go to jail, we show them what true heroism is, and we slowly win people over. And when they try to spin it, and when they try to blame all about the soldiers, and they try to distract from the fact that the government needs to take blame and the CDF needs to take some of the blame, and we start looking for the email trails to say who knew what when, and we don't let up and let them say, oh, well, put a corporal in jail, that's the end of that matter. We say, and that's why my case is good and that's why it's stupid, because I am a constant reminder that it's not enough to have trials in 10 years' time for a corporal that's private. That I'm there, as Eddie said, I saw all the secret documents, I saw all the high-level things, and I know the senior people were involved, and the senior people need to take the blame, or at least be looked at. So we just keep fighting on. It's going to be a long war, but the glory will be even better when we win.
Collective of people who have done all this and have continuously been campaigning for Julian and for David. So just want to take this time now to thank them very much for putting this on tonight. You'll see on the document there's an email address for them, so if you want to get involved in any of the campaigns, okay? Because are we going to let David go to jail? Are we going to get Julian Assange home to jail? All right, so that's probably all we've got time for tonight. But please do consider buying some merch on the way out, and maybe you can catch a drink and have a chat. And thank you for coming tonight. It's been a really great crowd, and I'm sure these two have felt very welcomed by Lismore. Thanks for the musos, and thank you for the poetry. And one more thing, I know everyone's very tired, okay? Let's get a group photo, okay? So we can show some support, and then we're going to tweet and Facebook it out.
Do you have a call to action for everyone? Any call to actions that you want people to do?
All the action is support these guys, get these links, Facebooks, hashtags, email addresses and websites, donate, buy merch, stay in touch, watch what's going on, okay? Because we're at the pressure point right now. Anyone, come up for a photo, get a photo, come on, we need this, these guys need this. Okay, we're going to end on a high, because that was pretty full on, what's happened tonight and the things that you've heard. And we are going to make sure that the goodies win this war on truth, aren't we? Yeah. Right. on stage and show some support. Next to the next Minister for Defence here, if we win this.
We'll vote for you.
Okay. Alright, what's the chant? What's the chant?
Hey?
Okay.
Oh, I'm just
okay.
Run.
All we are saying is